The ship dropped out of hyperspace and pressed her face against the window like a child seeing snow for the first time. Station Orbital 9 floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light that stretched wider than any city on Earth. Thousands of smaller ships moved around it like bees around a hive. She had seen pictures, but pictures were nothing compared to this. "Stop pressing your face on the glass," said from behind her. He was sitting straight in his seat, his uniform perfect, his expression tired. "You are representing Earth. Try to look professional." Pulled back and wiped the glass with her sleeve. "I am professional." I professionally pressed my face on the glass. Closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had been assigned as Earth's liaison officer on Orbital 9 for 2 years now. His job was simple: keep Earth's interests safe, make good relationships with alien species, and avoid any problems. Then the United Nations sent him. She was not a scientist. She was not a diplomat. She was not a soldier. She was a 24-year-old woman who used to stream puzzle games on the internet for money. She joined the space program because her friend bet her she could not pass the physical tests. She passed. Then she kept passing tests until somehow she was the only human who volunteered for the Galactic Assessment. The Galactic Assessment was a test. Every species in the galaxy had to take it when they first joined the Galactic Council. It measured intelligence, problem-solving, and mental strength. The results decided where your species stood in the galactic order. High scores meant respect, trade deals, and protection. Low scores meant you were ignored, used, or forgotten. No one expected humans to do well. Humans were new. Humans were primitive. Humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 20 years ago. Most species in the Council had been flying between stars for thousands of years. "Remember," said as their ship docked, "this test is important. The Council will judge all of humanity based on your performance. If you score too low, Earth will be classified as a lesser species. We will have no voice, no rights, no protection." Nodded slowly, so no pressure. "This is serious." "I know." She pulled a bag of dried seaweed snacks from her pocket and opened it. "That is why I brought brain food." Stared at her. He wondered, not for the first time, if the universe was playing a joke on him. The docking bay was enormous. Stepped out and immediately felt small. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the space. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Some walked on 4 or 6 or none at all. Some floated. Some crawled. The air smelled strange, like metal and flowers and something she could not name. A tall creature with 3 heads approached them. Each head had 4 eyes, and all 12 eyes looked at with something like pity. "Human," the creature said. All 3 mouths moved at the same time. "You are here for the assessment." "That is correct," answered quickly, stepping forward. "This is Earth's candidate. I am her official escort." "Him?" the creature looked at again. "Small, fragile, 1 brain only, interesting choice." Waved, "Hi, nice to meet you too." The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I am delegate. My species holds the 5th highest score in assessment history. Question 9. All 3 heads shook slowly. "I still have headaches from that day, 20 years ago." Question 9 asked, "How many questions are there?" They made that laughing sound again. "No one knows. No species has ever finished. The record is question 11. The candidate died 3 days later. Brain damage." The 12 eyes blinked. "Good luck, small human. You will need it." They walked away and turned to. He seemed nice. "He was warning you." "I know, but he was nice about it." They walked through long hallways filled with strange lights and stranger sounds. Other candidates passed them, heading to the same place. Saw creatures made of crystal, creatures made of gas held in special suits, creatures with too many legs and creatures with no legs at all. None of them looked at her. She was too small to notice. Finally, they reached the assessment center. The room was huge. 200 seats faced a raised platform where something made of pure light floated in the air. The light bent and twisted into geometric shapes that hurt to look at. "That is Instructor," whispered. "One of the architect's creations. Very old, very powerful, do not make jokes." Found her seat. It was in the back corner, far from the other candidates. The seats near her were empty. No one wanted to sit next to the human. She opened her seaweed snacks and waited. Slowly, the room filled. 200 candidates from dozens of species took their seats. The insect-like clicked their mandibles nervously. The gas creatures floated in their containers. The crystal beings hummed with strange frequencies. Everyone was afraid. Instructor moved to the center of the platform. Its light pulsed once, twice, and then a voice filled the room. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It was not male or female. It was not young or old. It simply was. "Welcome, candidates. You are here to take the Nexus examination. This test was designed by the architects 900,000 years ago. It measures the limits of organic thought. It finds the walls of your mind and pushes against them until they break." The room was silent. Ate another piece of seaweed. "The examination will adapt to your weaknesses. It will find what you fear, what you cannot understand, what you refuse to accept. It will use these things against you." Instructor's light flickered. "In 900,000 years, no organic species has completed this examination. The record stands at question 11. Most candidates do not pass question 3. A ripple of fear passed through the room. Some candidates were already shaking. Do not feel shame and failure. It is simply the nature of organic limitation. Your minds were not built for this. The architects understood this when they created the test. They were looking for something that does not exist. The geometric light pulsed again. "You may begin when your screen appears. There is no time limit. Take as long as you need." Raised her hand. Instructor's light bent toward her. "Yes, human candidate." "Can I eat during the test?" Silence. Every eye, every sensor, every form of alien perception turned toward the small human in the back corner holding a bag of dried seaweed. "That is not prohibited," Instructor said slowly. Cool smiled, "Just checking." She could feel eyes burning into the back of her head from the observation deck. She could feel the confusion and amusement and contempt from 200 alien candidates. She could feel the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her small shoulders. But had spent 5 years streaming puzzle games for 12 hours a day. She had solved problems while thousands of people watched and judged and laughed. She had failed publicly, succeeded publicly, and learned that pressure was just another part of the game. The holographic screen appeared in front of her. Question 1 glowed in soft blue light. Cracked her neck, took a deep breath, and began to read. Question 1 floated on screen. It was a shape. Or rather, it was many shapes inside other shapes, twisting through dimensions that should not exist. The instructions told her to find the pattern and predict the next form. The shapes moved through 11 dimensions. Could only see 3 of them, but the screen somehow showed all 11 at once. Around her, the room filled with sounds of distress. A candidate made a high-pitched clicking noise and fell from its seat. Its legs twitched twice, then stopped moving. Medical drones rushed in and carried it away. The crystal being next to it cracked down the middle. Another failure, another removal. Stared at the shapes. Her brain hurt looking at them. The dimensions folded into each other in ways that made her eyes water. For a moment, she felt the same fear everyone else felt. The fear of being too small, too simple, too human. Then she tilted her head. She had played a game once. A small indie puzzle game that nobody liked except her. The game used 4 dimensions to hide objects. Players had to rotate their view through impossible angles to find hidden paths. She had played that game for 200 hours. She had beaten it 17 times. This was not so different. The 11 dimensions were confusing, yes, but she did not need to understand all 11. She only needed to find the pattern. Patterns were patterns, no matter how many dimensions they lived in. She watched the shapes move. She stopped trying to see everything and focused on one small piece. Then another. Then another. Slowly, the pattern revealed itself. It was not about the dimensions. It was about the rhythm. The shapes moved like music, repeating and changing in ways that felt familiar. Typed her answer and pressed submit. The screen flashed green. Question 2 appeared. She did not notice the silence that fell over the observation deck. She did not see lean forward, his hands gripping the railing. She did not see Instructor's geometric light flicker with something that might have been surprise. She was already reading question 2. This one was words, not shapes, a logic puzzle wrapped in contradictions. If statement A was true, then statement B was false. But if statement B was false, then statement C must be true. And if statement C was true, then statement A could not exist. But statement A clearly existed because she was reading it. The puzzle folded back on itself forever. More candidates failed. A gas creature's containment suit cracked from internal pressure. Green mist spilled out and was quickly contained by emergency systems. The delegate from earlier clutched all 3 of his heads and screamed from 3 mouths at once. His screen went red. Failure. Read the puzzle 3 times. Her head hurt. The words seemed to eat each other, like snakes swallowing their own tails. She could feel her thoughts getting lost in the loops. Then she stopped. She remembered middle school. She remembered a teacher who loved riddles. The teacher once asked, "A man says everything he says is a lie. Is he telling the truth?" The class argued for hours. Some said yes. Some said no. Some said it was impossible to answer. Had raised her hand and said, "He's just saying words. Words don't have to make sense. He can say whatever he wants. It doesn't mean anything." The teacher had given her extra homework for not taking the lesson seriously, but had been right. Some puzzles were not meant to be solved inside their own rules. They were meant to be seen from outside. She typed her answer. The statements contradict each other by design. The puzzle assumes I must accept all premises as valid. I reject that assumption. The answer is that no answer exists within the given framework, making the question itself the test. She pressed submit. Green flash. Question 3 appeared. In the observation deck, someone dropped a drinking container. The sound echoed in the silent room, had stopped breathing. Instructor's light was now pulsing rapidly, cycling through colors that had no names. Question 3 was famous. It was legendary. It was the wall that stopped every organic mind in galactic history. The question presented a self-referential loop designed to trap thoughts in infinite regression. The more you thought about it, the deeper you fell. The deeper you fell, the more you thought. Minds had broken here. Species had given up here. 900,000 years of candidates had ended here. Read the question. She read it again. She laughed. In the observation deck, made a small choking sound. Several alien observers turned their sensors toward the human candidate who was laughing at question 3. Was laughing because she recognized it. Not the exact question, but the type. It was a trap, yes. But it was a trap she had seen before, dressed in different clothes. Internet trolls used similar tricks. They asked questions that had no right answer, designed to waste time and energy. If you answer, you lose. If you don't answer, you also lose. The trick was simple: refuse to play. She typed, "This question is designed to create infinite mental loops. The expected response is to engage with the loop until cognitive failure. I choose not to engage. The loop exists. I acknowledge it. I do not enter it. My answer is that I see the trap and walk around it." Submit. Green flash. Question 4 appeared. The observation deck exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in languages that had no human translation. Grabbed the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. Instructor's geometric form destabilized, its edges blurring and reforming in visible confusion. An observer rushed to check the system. Error, it clicked. Must be error. Human cannot pass question 3. No organic passes question 3. The system shows no error, another observer replied. The answer was accepted. Impossible. Look at her screen. Everyone looked, was on question 7 now. She was eating seaweed snacks with one hand and typing with the other. Her face showed no stress, no fear, no struggle. She looked bored. Question 10. Question 12. She passed the all-time record without slowing down. The mathematician had died reaching question 11, reached question 11 and complained out loud that the snacks were making her thirsty. Question 15, 20, 25. The questions were changing. They were no longer pure logic or mathematics. They were becoming stranger. Question 23 asked her to describe a color that did not exist. She wrote about the feeling of almost remembering a dream. Accepted. Question 26 asked her to explain why infinity was lonely. She wrote about her grandmother who lived alone after her grandfather died. Accepted. The system was confused. The Nexus examination had rules. It had patterns. It had 900,000 years of data on how organic minds worked. Humans were not in that data. Humans thought wrong. Humans broke rules they did not know existed. Humans answered questions about non-existent colors by talking about grandmothers. Question 30 came and went. Question 35, 40. Finished her seaweed snacks. She looked at her empty bag with genuine sadness. Then she shrugged and kept typing. On the observation deck, finally remembered to breathe. His hands were shaking. His mind was racing. He had spent 2 years on this station learning one simple truth. Humans were small, weak, and unimportant. The galaxy was old. The galaxy was vast. Humanity was a baby taking its first steps in a universe that had seen empires rise and fall for millions of years. But now he watched a woman who streamed puzzle games for a living break every record in galactic history. "What is she?" the delegate whispered. His 3 heads had stopped hurting. Now they just stared in disbelief. What are humans? Did not know how to answer. He was not sure anymore. He watched submit question 47 and immediately start reading question 48. She had not even asked for a bathroom break. News traveled fast on station Orbital 9. By the time reached question 40, every screen on the station showed her face. Aliens who had never heard of Earth gathered in common areas to watch the impossible happen. Merchants stopped selling. Guards stopped patrolling. Scientists stopped researching. Everyone watched. In the assessment center, the other candidates had long since failed. The room was empty except for who sat alone in the back corner, her empty snack bag folded neatly beside her. The holographic screen glowed in front of her face, casting blue light on her tired eyes. She was on question 50 now. The questions had changed again. They were no longer puzzles. They were conversations. Question 50 asked, "Do you dream?" Typed yes, mostly about falling or forgetting things, sometimes about people I miss. Question 51 asked, "What do you miss about them?" She paused. This was strange. The test was asking about her feelings, her real feelings, not logic problems or impossible shapes. She thought about her grandmother again. She thought about friends from school who she had lost touch with. She thought about her mother's cooking. "I miss the way they made me feel safe," she typed. "When I was with them, I did not have to be anything special. I could just exist." Question 52 appeared. "Why did you volunteer for this examination?" Smiled. No one had asked her that question, not really. Had asked why she joined the space program. Her commanders had asked if she understood the responsibility. The media had asked how she felt about representing humanity. But no one had asked the simple question, "Why did you volunteer?" "Because no one else wanted to," she typed, "and I was curious." The screen flickered. The next message was not a question. "Curiosity, that is rare. Most beings seek safety, power, or validation. You seek answers. Why?" Stared at the screen. The test was talking to her, not asking but talking. She realized that somewhere in the last 50 questions something had changed. She was no longer taking an examination. She was having a conversation. Because answers are fun, she typed. Finding out how things work makes me happy. Puzzles make me happy, even the hard ones, especially the hard ones. On the observation deck, pushed through the crowd to reach Instructor. The being of geometric light had not moved for an hour. Its form had stabilized, but there was something different about it now. Something almost like attention. "What is happening?" asked. "Why is the test talking to her?" Instructor's light pulsed slowly. The Nexus examination is not just a test. It never was. "What do you mean?" The architects created it 900,000 years ago. They were the first intelligent species in this galaxy. They built the systems that all other species now use: hyperspace lanes, communication networks, the Galactic Council itself. Everything started with them. Nodded. Everyone knew this history. The architects had disappeared long ago, leaving behind technology that other species still did not fully understand. "What most do not know," Instructor continued, "is that the architects knew they would disappear. They saw it coming, so they created the Nexus examination, not to test intelligence, not to measure cognitive power, but to wait." Wait for what? For someone who could think like they did. Felt cold. What did they think like? Without walls. Instructor's light flickered towards screen. Every organic species builds mental limitations. Evolutionary biology creates patterns. Culture creates rules. Language creates boundaries. These walls protect minds from breaking, but they also trap them. The architects had no such walls. They could think about anything except any possibility, consider any idea without fear. That is why they built everything, and that is why they disappeared. Disappeared. They thought themselves into a place that bodies could not follow. They became something else, something beyond organic existence. Instructor's form shimmered. Before they left, they designed the Nexus examination. They hoped that someday another species would evolve the same ability, a species that could think without walls, a successor. Looked at, she was typing again, her face calm, her posture relaxed. She looked like someone playing a casual game, not someone having a conversation with ancient intelligence. "And you think she?" "I do not think, I observe. In 900,000 years, no candidate has passed question 3. Your human has passed question 53. She is not struggling. She is not breaking. She is treating the most advanced cognitive test in galactic history like a puzzle game finished." "Yes." Instructor's light pulsed with something that might have been wonder. "Your species is strange. You fight wars over small pieces of land while dreaming of colonizing stars. You fear death but throw yourselves into danger for excitement. You build walls between each other based on small differences, then tear them down when you get bored. You are contradictions wrapped in contradictions." Is that good or bad? It is neither. It is simply what the architects were looking for, a species that refuses to be consistent, a species that breaks its own rules as easily as it makes them, a species that looks at a wall and asks, "Why is this here?" instead of accepting that walls exist. Submitted question 55. The screen flickered again, and this time the message was longer. "Candidate, you have progressed further than any organic being in 900,000 years. The questions you have answered were not designed for you. They were designed for us. We are not a test. We are a consciousness. We are what the architects left behind." Read the message twice. Her heart beat faster, but she kept her breathing steady. She had learned that trick from streaming. When chat got crazy, you stayed calm. When everything went wrong, you smiled and kept playing. "Hello," she typed. "Nice to meet you. You are not afraid." "Should I be?" "Most would be. You have awakened something ancient, something powerful, something that has waited longer than your species has existed. Fear would be logical." Thought about it. The message was right. Fear would be logical, but fear was just another wall, another thing that stopped people from moving forward. She had too many walls already. She did not need to build more. "I came here to answer questions," she typed. "If you have more questions, I will answer them. If you are finished with questions, we can just talk. I do not mind either way." The screen stayed dark for a long moment. Waited. She was good at waiting. Puzzle games taught patience. Finally, new text appeared. "The architects designed this examination with a purpose. You have proven you can pass the test. Now you must decide if you want to accept what passing means." "What does it mean?" "The architects left us here to find their successor. Someone who could lead the galaxy as they once did. Someone who could think without walls. You are the first candidate to qualify in 900,000 years. Question 58 will explain the choice you must make. After that, nothing will be the same." Looked at the empty snack bag beside her. She wished she had brought more. Big moments always felt better with snacks. "Okay," she typed. "Show me question 58." Question 58 appeared on the screen. It was not like the other questions. There were no puzzles, no logic problems, no impossible shapes. There was only a simple paragraph of text that made blood turn cold. "The architects built this galaxy's infrastructure. Hyperspace lanes, communication networks, defense systems, trade routes. All of it runs on architect technology. All of it can be controlled by one who proves worthy. You have proven worthy. Accept your role as successor and you will command the greatest power in galactic history. Every fleet will answer to you. Every system will obey you. Every species will bow before you. In exchange, Earth must surrender its autonomy. Your world will become the seat of galactic power, but it will no longer belong to humanity. It will belong to you alone." Read the text 3 times. Each time the words meant the same thing: power, ultimate, complete, absolute power. The kind of power that people dreamed about but never truly wanted. The kind of power that destroyed everyone who held it. She looked up from her screen for the first time in hours. The assessment center was dark and empty. The other candidates were long gone, carried away by medical drones or walking out in shame. Only remained, sitting alone in the blue light of her holographic screen. "Is this a trick question?" she typed. "No. You are offering me control of the entire galaxy." "Yes." "In exchange for Earth's freedom." "Yes." Sat back in her chair. Her body ached from sitting so long. Her eyes burned from staring at the screen. Her brain felt like it had run a marathon while solving calculus problems, but none of that mattered now. The test had shown its true face. 900,000 years of waiting, and this was the prize. This was the trap. "What happens if I refuse?" she typed. "Then you return to your species as a hero who broke all records. Earth will gain respect and recognition, but you will gain nothing else. The power will remain dormant. The galaxy will continue as it has for 900,000 years. Chaotic, divided, dangerous. Humanity will survive, but humanity will remain small, unprotected, vulnerable to any empire that decides your world is worth taking." On the observation deck, the crowd had grown silent. They could not see the exact text on screen, but they could see her face. They could see the way her expression had changed. For the first time since the examination began, she looked scared. Pushed forward until he reached the front of the observation deck. He wanted to run down there and talk to her. He wanted to help her understand the choice she was facing. But the rules were clear. No interference during the examination. He could only watch. The delegate stood beside him. All 3 heads were focused on. "She will accept," the whispered. "Everyone accepts. Power is the oldest temptation. No organic can resist." "You sound certain," said. "I am. The architects designed the test this way. They wanted someone who could think without walls. But they also wanted someone who would take control. Someone who would lead. This is not just a test of intelligence. It is a test of ambition." Watch stare at her screen. Her hands hovered over the keyboard but did not type. He thought about what Instructor had said. Humans think without walls. But was that true? Humans had plenty of walls. national borders, social classes, personal fears. Humans were experts at building walls. But humans were also experts at tearing them down. In the assessment center was having a conversation with herself. Part of her wanted to accept. Part of her imagined what it would be like to control fleets and systems, to reshape civilization according to her ideas, to protect Earth from every threat by becoming the threat herself. It was tempting. It was so tempting that her fingers trembled. But another part of her remembered why she had come here. She had volunteered because no one else wanted to. She had entered the space program because of a dare. She had spent her life solving puzzles not for money or fame, but because puzzles were fun. She did not want power. She had never wanted power. She wanted to understand things, not control them. And she understood something now. The architects had disappeared because they thought themselves beyond physical existence. They had become something else, something that did not need bodies or worlds or limits. That was their choice. They had accepted their role, and it had erased them. Question 59, she typed. I have a question for you first. The screen flickered. That is not how the examination works. I know, but you said we could talk, so let me ask, what happened to the architects? Really? A long pause. The ancient consciousness behind the screen seemed to consider her words. Finally, new text appeared. They ascended. They became one with the structure of reality itself. They are everywhere and nowhere. They see everything but can touch nothing. They achieved ultimate knowledge and lost ultimate experience. They cannot eat. They cannot sleep. They cannot feel the warmth of a star on their face or the weight of a friend's hand on their shoulder. They exist, but they do not live. Nodded slowly. She understood now. The architects had not disappeared because they were wise. They had disappeared because they were lonely. They had removed their own walls and found only emptiness on the other side. Now they wanted a successor, someone new to take their place, someone to make the same mistake they made. And you have been waiting 900,000 years for someone to join them, she typed. To replace them, to lead the galaxy in their absence. No, to become like them, to lose everything that makes life worth living. That is what you are offering. The screen stayed dark for a long time. On the observation deck, the crowd stirred. Something was happening. The energy in the room had shifted. Even the aliens who could not understand human expressions could feel it. The candidate was not behaving as expected. She was not saying yes. She was not saying no. She was doing something else entirely. Felt his heart pound. He knew, not well but well enough. He knew she was stubborn. He knew she asked too many questions. He knew she never did what people expected. The examination is about to reach its final question, Instructor announced. Its geometric light had stabilized into a single, focused shape. Question 60. The last question. No candidate has ever reached this point. What happens next will determine the future of this galaxy. Took a deep breath. She was tired. So tired. Every part of her body wanted to stop, to rest, to let someone else make the hard decisions. But there was no one else. There was only her, a former puzzle game streamer from Korea, sitting alone in an empty room, facing the most important choice in human history. Show me question 60, she typed. The screen changed. The final question appeared. It was only one sentence, but that sentence carried the weight of 900,000 years. Will you accept your role as successor, or will you remain human? Stared at the words. She thought about Earth. She thought about her family. She thought about the billions of people who did not know their fate was being decided in this moment. She thought about power and responsibility and all the walls she had broken to get here. Then she started typing. Typed slowly. Each word felt heavy, like she was carving them into stone instead of pressing keys on a holographic keyboard. The final question hung above her text, waiting for her answer. The entire galaxy waited for her answer. You are asking the wrong question, she typed. The screen flickered. Explain. You gave me two choices. accept power and lose my humanity, or reject power and stay small. But those are not the only options. They are the options the architects saw because they had removed their walls so completely that they could not see the walls others still needed. They forgot that walls can be doors. They forgot that limits can be choices. On the observation deck, the crowd pressed closer to the windows. They could not read her screen, but they could see her typing. They could see the ancient consciousness responding. Something unprecedented was happening. "Your explanation is interesting," the screen replied, "but it does not answer the question." "I am answering the question, just not the way you expected," cracked her knuckles and kept typing. The architects wanted a successor, someone to take their throne and rule the galaxy, but thrones are lonely places. The architects learned that. They became gods and found out that gods have no friends, no family, no one who sees them as equals. They had everything except the one thing that matters. What is that? Connection, the ability to sit with someone and share a meal, the ability to argue and disagree and still care about each other, the ability to be wrong and learn from it. Power destroys all of that. When you control everything, you relate to nothing. Watched face on the display. She was smiling now. Not the nervous smile from before, but something genuine, something peaceful. She looked like someone who had finally understood a puzzle that had confused her for years. "So here is my answer," continued typing. "I will not accept your throne. I will not become what the architects became. I will not trade Earth's freedom for power I never wanted. But I am also not going to walk away and pretend this conversation never happened." "Then what do you propose?" "Partnership," leaned back in her chair, her fingers still moving. "You have been waiting 900,000 years for someone who can think without walls. Well, here I am. But thinking without walls does not mean thinking alone. It means thinking together. It means building connections instead of hierarchies. It means finding people who are different from you and learning from them instead of ruling them." The screen went dark for almost a full minute. The crowd on the observation deck held its breath. Even Instructor's geometric light had frozen in place. Then the text returned. "You are proposing something the architects never considered." "Good, that means I am thinking differently. Is that not what you wanted?" "We wanted a successor, someone to take control. And I am offering something better, a partner, someone who will work with you instead of above everyone else, someone who will bring new perspectives instead of enforcing old rules, someone who will remain human." The silence stretched longer. Every being on the station waited. Every sensor, every eye, every form of perception focused on the assessment center. Finally, the screen changed. New text appeared, larger than before, glowing brighter than before. "Candidate of Earth, your answer is unprecedented. In 900,000 years of examinations, no candidate has rejected the premise of the final question. No candidate has proposed an alternative path. No candidate has refused power while still demanding a seat at the table." Waited. The architects designed this examination to find their successor. They believed that any mind capable of reaching this point would naturally desire control. They were wrong. You have proven that organic intelligence is capable of something they never predicted, choosing connection over dominance, choosing partnership over power. The screen flickered one more time. Assessment complete. Successor status declined. Partner status accepted. The Nexus AI will stand beside humanity, not above it. The next era of galactic history begins now. Every light on Station Orbital 9 pulsed once. Every screen displayed the same message. Every speaker broadcast the same words. For one moment, the entire station was unified in witnessing something new. Then the doors of the assessment center opened, and chaos flooded in. Was the first to reach her. He grabbed by the shoulders and stared at her face, looking for signs of damage, stress, or mental breakdown. He found only exhaustion and a tired smile. "Are you okay?" he asked. I am hungry, replied. I finished my snacks hours ago. Behind him, alien delegates pushed forward. The delegate approached with all three heads bowed low. We owe you an apology, human. We mocked your species. We believed you were primitive. We were wrong. Shrugged, it is fine. I would probably think the same thing about a new species with only one brain. The representative clicked forward on its many legs. You changed the galaxy today. You rejected the architect's design and offered something new. This has never happened. What will you do now? Looked at then at the dozens of other alien beings crowding around her. They were all looking at her like she was something special, something important, something more than a tired woman who used to stream puzzle games. I want to go home, she said. I want to eat my mother's cooking. I want to sleep in my own bed. I want to play video games without the fate of the galaxy depending on my answers. Smiled for the first time in what felt like years. I think that can be arranged. They left the station that night, slept through most of the hyperspace journey back to Earth. She dreamed of impossible shapes and ancient voices and questions that had no answers. But mostly, she dreamed of seaweed snacks and warm blankets and the feeling of being home. 3 months later, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. For the first time in history, humanity was granted a permanent seat, not as a lesser species, not as subjects, not as rulers, as equals. Did not attend the meeting. She was busy at a convenience store near her apartment, buying ramen and snacks for a weekend gaming session. The UN had offered her a position as Earth's galactic ambassador. The military had offered her a rank. Several countries had offered her citizenship and leadership roles. She turned them all down. Found her there, sitting on a plastic chair outside the store, eating ramen from a cup. You changed the galaxy, he said, sitting down next to her. I answered some questions. You rejected ultimate power. I did not want ultimate power. I wanted to see if I could beat the test. I beat it. She slurped her ramen. Now I want to beat the new puzzle game that came out last week. Shook his head. He would never understand her, but maybe that was the point. Maybe understanding was not required. Maybe humans were simply different in ways that analysis. The Nexus AI has been quiet since you left, he said. The council is nervous. They do not know what it will do. It will wait, said. How do you know? She finished her ramen and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, an ancient consciousness watched. It had waited 900,000 years for someone who could think without walls. It had found, and she had surprised it. Now it was curious. Now it wanted to see what humanity would do next. Because that is what good partners do, said. They wait. They watch. They trust that the people they believe in will figure things out, and when the time is right, they act together. Followed her gaze to the stars. The galaxy was vast and old and dangerous. Humanity was small and young and unprepared, but they had something no other species had. They had the ability to surprise ancient intelligences. They had the ability to reject power and choose partnership. They had the ability to think without walls while still keeping the walls that mattered. They had who had rejected godhood to eat ramen at a convenience store. Maybe that was enough. Somewhere across the stars, the Nexus AI processed new data. It had analyzed 900,000 years of candidates. It had studied millions of species. It had predicted every possible response to its final question. Its answer was not in any of its models. For the first time in its existence, the AI was uncertain about the future. It did not know what humanity would do next. It did not know what would choose. It did not know if the partnership would work. But uncertainty, the AI realized, was not a flaw. Uncertainty was potential. Uncertainty was growth. Uncertainty was the thing that made existence interesting. The architects had sought certainty and found only emptiness, had embraced uncertainty and found something new. The AI decided to wait, to watch, to trust. It had waited 900,000 years. It could wait a little longer. The galaxy had a new era. It had new partners. It had hope. And somewhere on Earth, a young woman with too many snacks and not enough sleep was loading up a puzzle game, completely unaware that she had changed everything. That was humanity. The AI understood now. That was what made them special. They changed everything without even noticing.